So, what's your name?
My name is Jeff Nesbitt.
So which parent has been the most influential in your life, would you think?
My mother.
Has there been any experiences that you can remember that have led you to this decision?
Almost all of them. My father died when I was 4 years old, so my mother is the majority of or my mother is the basis for the majority of my experience with parents. She raised me and dealt with me as a teenager.
Did she care about your grades a lot? Was she strict with your weekly chores, daily chores, being respectful at all times, using time wisely?
So she tried really hard and she did her best.
Mm-hmm.
I will be honest, I was not the best pre-teenager, teenager.
Mm-hmm.
So I rebelled a lot at that age, and so she did the absolute best she could, and in the long run, it worked out. I remember her saying that she would tell herself that she was going to have faith at least until I was 17, and she made it. I turned the corner.
All right. So do you think that the child should make their decisions in their life, or your mother, for instance, when you were younger?
So that's a really interesting question because now I'm a parent. I think that every opportunity that a young person can have to make their own decisions and then reflect upon the experience that results from it is a positive thing. That being said, someone has to have the judgment to recognize and help determine what impact that decision may have on the child. So that's where a parent's judgment comes in. And so in order for a kid to develop judgment, a parent has to have the judgment of saying, how much rope do I give?
Mm-hmm.
And when do I say no? And when do I say, what do you think? And when do I say the decision is up to you?
So you're not saying the parent should make the decisions, the child should make the decisions, none of that, but in the middle, as in the parent carves a way for the child to follow.
Yes, but in doing so, ultimately, the parent does make the decision because, we just wrote this big paper about whether or not parents or kids should make decisions. But the idea is so many people are saying, well, it depends on the situation, but the parent determines which situation in which they will allow the child to choose versus they will choose for the child. So whether or not we want it to be kids making decisions versus parents making decisions, parents are always making the decisions because they're the responsible party. Not responsible as in going to do the right thing, but responsible as in if something bad happens, it's on them.
What happens if the parent makes all the decisions, how would the child learn to make their own decisions?
You're right. So if the parent determines the course of action for every issue that the child faces, then the child won't learn to determine for themselves what the right thing to do is. What I mean is that the parent is still choosing when to allow the child to make their decision versus when they should make the decision for the child. So when you think about it at a larger scale, the parent is still always making the decision. So the challenge comes in for the parent is, when do you say, I know this is the right decision, but I'm going to let my son make the wrong decision, and then he will learn from that.
So, failure leads to success.
Failure leads to learning. It doesn't always lead to success. Failure is not a bad word.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.